to this webinar. We'll wait for a bit more, 5 more minutes before we get started on this. This is a webinar, so everybody is by default mute. If you have any questions, can we get it answered in the Q&A question? Thank you very much. We'll start in about 3 more minutes. Hi, Gavin. All right, guys, 2 more minutes and we'll get started. Can I once again remind everyone to, when you need to ask questions, there's a Q&A section on Zoom. Please click on the Q&A button to be able to ask a question so that I can record it down and we can respond to it slowly. All right, let's get started. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome for this special presentation of SGTech webinar on the SME survival in the isolation economy. We want to talk today about government and community measures to help you guys support and overcome COVID-19 for businesses. Now, before we get started, a few things. On my left here, this giant thing, yes, it's a giant unicorn, which I always have with me on my webinar. So for those of you guys who want to say hi, please say hi to Theodore. All right, fun things aside, let's get started today on this webinar. Now, before I go on, I need to give you guys a safe harbor statement. This presentation is only used for this material purposes. A lot of situation, the questions and the answers will be given is not reflective of the Singapore government, neither is it reflective of SGTech. We took all our efforts to combine all the information that was announced by Deputy Prime Minister Heng, Swee, Keat yesterday, and we try our best to be as accurate as possible. We do apologize if anything is wrong, and we'll correct it as and when understanding comes out. We reserve all rights for this material, and we ask everyone to be able to take this information with the best of heart and the best of light in the current situation, given that we only have about 24 hours since yesterday's announcement to make this happen. All right. All right, guys. So once again, a good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ivan. I'm a co-opted councillor for Singapore SGTech. My email is below and my social ID is at IvanChangWL. Today, I'm very pleased to be able to give you guys a sharing about the webinar. I wanted to broadcast this in a more professional setting, but given the situation, I'm doing it from home right now. So maybe let's go on and give you a few key information first. What is SGTech? Now, SGTech is a premier trade association for the tech industry in Singapore, or the ICT industry. We are representative of 900 over members from SME to the bigger boys. And we ask that, for those of you who are ICT sector and in this presentation, do consider joining us as a member. We are stronger together and we are doing everything we can right now in the COVID situation to help our members. Some of the efforts in the last 3 months include outsourcing and crowdsourcing hand sanitizer for our members, getting housing and accommodation for our Malaysian members who are staying here with Singapore companies, and other slew of measures and policy proposal. Post-webinar, I require all of you guys to help me do a post-webinar industry survey. This industry survey is done and conducted by SGTech. We are very fortunate today to have more than 410 of you signing up for this webinar. And as of right now, I can see that we have 220 people tuning live. This survey will automatically open once you finish the webinar. I ask once again all of you to support us and finish this quick 3-page survey so that we can share this result with the relevant government agency and for our future policy suggestions. We are stronger together. COVID-19 has taught us to be SG United. I ask everyone to support us, support SGTech, and support the Singapore economy. Moving forward, I want to give you guys an overview of today's webinar. There are 3 things I'll always be asked. First thing first, the slides today, I have a lot to go through, more than 75 slides today, will be circulated on my personal website, which you can click below. Link will be sent out to you guys post-webinar in about a day time automatically. You can also go there and download the whole slide presentation. By all means, you're welcome to share the slides, and please email me if you find any mistakes. Number 2, the recording of this webinar will also be available about 2 hours after this live presentation on the Zoom site. We will share the link with you in an email as well. You can take the time to pursue this recording. Number 3, we have a Q&A section. I know a lot of you guys are raising your hand. This is not a Zoom call. This is a Zoom webinar. So I have muted all of you guys effectively for now. If you have any question, can you please kindly click on the Zoom and click on the button called Q&A. The Q&A buttons would be most important for you guys as you have questions along the way. Please upvote and we'll try our best to address as many Q&A as possible after this webinar is over. Moving on, we have 4 things for today. I thought that a lot of you guys are of course interested in point number 3 and number 4 to know about the measures, but I think it's also important before we go on to give you guys an understanding of why the reason and behind the impact of our economy first, an overview of the Singapore government budget, the company's measures and company support to go through this tough times together. I will not be sharing or answering any question about personal measurements to help you guys in the budget 2020, as that is not covered in this webinar. All right, without further ado, let's get started right away about COVID-19 and understanding the reason for the impact on our economy. I understand that this is a bit distant from you guys as you try to survive, but it's also important to take a step back and understand the situation we are in right now. First thing first, we are headed for a major global recession. A poll of top economists in Europe and US combined expects a major recession in the next 12 months. What is more uncertain is the emerging market and whether we expect a recession in the BRIC countries such as Brazil, China, and India. And the reason for this is also because the rebound in China is starting to happen, as you evident from the Hubei lifting up their policy for traveling. But for Singapore, this is where we stand. Based on the latest MTI data on the Ministry of Trade and Industry, we have now officially shrunk in the Q1. Year on year, we have shrunk 2.2% in 2020 Q1. We are now estimating a 2020 shrinking of the economy by -1% to -4%. This is not a recession yet, as we might just enter a technical recession, but we do expect a contraction. This contraction of -2.2% is worse than the 2008 financial crisis, so 2020 will likely be the worst shrinkage of the economy since our independence. For context, the last time we shrank was in 2001. We have avoided a recession for 20 years, and I think this might be time that the economy will go through a recession. Globally speaking, as you say before, the stock market indices are down about 27% on average. This is why the emerging markets become a bit more confusing, because we do not know where the bottom will fall out for the emerging markets in terms of stock market declines. But let's go through a quick overcome economics of the expectation for COVID-19 and why is it different from any situation we anticipated before. From an economic perspective, this is a major difference. In the traditional economics perspective, when you have a supply side shock, the supply side curve goes up, goes back, and the demand as well corresponding drop. This is different in COVID-19. Today, we are not just a supply shock. The global financial crisis of 2008 was a supply shock just to the financial sector. It caused supply to shrink and demand correspondingly drop. However, today, we are in both a demand and supply shock economy situation. The initial stages of COVID-19 feels like a supply shock. As evident in China, you see people stop production and labor starts being retrenched. So it looks like a traditional recession. But let me explain to you why this recession or this COVID-19 is a different impact to our economy and why the impact you feel right now is so much more than any situation and time in history. The difference in this time is the red color box as seen in the slides above. The pressure to decrease spending shock creates the whole demand side supply shock. This demand side supply shock, as evident by household and firms not investing or buying, we want to increase our saving at this time, cause us to continue to decline. So we started from AS0, right over here. Let me just draw this out. We started from AS0 all the way to AS2, and we started from AD0 all the way to AD01. Basically, the economy is shrinking rapidly in a three-quarter situation here. This is completely different from a traditional supply shock economy recession cycle. This time, the whole attack is the whole fundamentals of the market itself. We are not just talking about bubble and having a price correction. We are talking about an economy situation whereby people get spending lesser and people trust the economy lesser, and therefore the free market economy that underpins the entire global economy is now under attack. This is why a lot of you will feel that the impact is way more severe than ever before in history. So we have to get ready to encounter an even more prolonged recessionary cycle. A lot of times we try to compare this supply, from SARS. This is different once again from SARS. The two key reasons are because today is now a global pandemic and the importance of China. This is a simple map to show you SARS epidemic versus COVID. I did not need to say more about the spread of COVID-19 compared to SARS in 2003. On top of that, it's about the importance of China in today's economy. The blue bar represents what was China's economy contribution, and the red bar today in today's economic cycle. The Chinese economy has grown more than 4x in importance in the world. They are now a recognized global power compared to SARS, and this is why the impact is so much more for so many of us in every part of the world. The Chinese economy is simply stronger than ever before and a bigger impact on the global economic cycle. Given the situation, let's talk about Singapore. The Chinese economy represents 20% of our tourist arrival, but more than 40% of our spending pattern in Singapore itself. This is why our tourism sector feels so much more affected, and correspondingly, they are also spending less. As such, we are now encountering a new economy called the isolation economy. Globally, 1 in 10 of us right now are confined to our home, either through a stay-home notice or being quarantined at home or other forms of lockdown in the economy cycle. This is the fact of life right now. The highly skilled worker have so much more options to work from home compared to the lower skilled worker and the lowest earners itself. As you can see, the option to work from home at the 75th percentile is more than 60%. But our sector that most affected right now, the people who are serving us, who are helping us, who are giving us the ability to still travel and correspond in the market, the 25th percentile and the 50th percentile, have so much lesser to work from home. Think about your service sector, think about your hairdresser, think about your hotel industries. And this is why in the isolation economy, we are moving onwards to a very, very much more polarizing economic status. However, all of this doom and gloom also represent one thing. The economy will rebound again. Demand side drivers, eventually when confidence go up, will lead to supply side growth. And the $1 trillion question that everyone will ask is when. The fact of life is we do not know. I would strongly recommend that all our companies and ICT firms, based on my own initial assessment, to be able to withstand at least 18 months of global turmoil before we see a sense of normalcy in the economy. But the upside is the economy will rebound. What we can do. The opportunities and threat in the isolation economy is massive, and as well, give me a while, guys. The opportunities and threat in the isolation economy represents a lot of frameworks and key differences for us. Today, we are given 3 frames, and I ask companies to think of your survival in 3 different frameworks. First thing first, do all you can to survive for the 18 months, be it line of financing, be it labor, be it disruption to your supply side. You have to find a way to survive the next 18 months. Do that first. Get your house in check, then think of the next 2 things you can do. Take advantage of the situation or adapt in the lower growth economy. For food and beverages industry today, advantage will be including things like online delivery and takeouts. Adaptation in the new economy for tourism sector might mean different form of tourism expectation. It will never be as high as the previous time, but at least you are able to adapt in today's economy. And finally, when the crisis is over, resume your business. More information on the isolation economy framework will be shared to listen into and have an understanding of. The Singapore Government Resilient Budget Plan. What can we do today and how are we supporting our industry? Let's start. The Singapore government budget, as fellow Singaporeans in this chat, I thought it was so important to have an understanding of how are we taking this money. Everyone is, of course, talking about the $55 billion of injection the government of Singapore is putting into the economy. I thought it's also important as fellow Singaporeans today to roughly understand where we are coming from. The current term of government will end this year by 30th of April 2021. That's why they have to call election. Every term of government have to be able to have a net or 0% cost to the reserve. So we can see from this forecast, the Singapore government before COVID-19 and based on the budget 2020 announced earlier, will have about $7 to $11 billion of reserve left. Minister Heng will be taking out a special reserve. We did not ask for a reserve usage in 2003 SARS crisis. Contrary to popular belief, we did not take any reserve from the SARS crisis. We only took reserve in 2009 during the global financial crisis. And of the $4.9 billion drawdown from the reserve by the 2011 government budget, $4 billion was returned to the government budget. Today is an extraordinary time. I think we're so fortunate to be Singaporeans here today, all of us who are Singaporeans and Singaporean PR, that the government has been saving this up for a long time today. And this is why we are able to fund this crisis. The Unity budget, which was announced by Deputy Prime Minister Heng in February 2020, has $5.6 billion of measures for COVID-19 called the Stabilization and Support Package. Today and yesterday, the Minister has announced a $48 billion extension of the budget called the Resilient Budget. $28 billion will be dedicated to household and businesses. $20 billion is for loan backing. Most importantly, for fellow Singaporeans, how are we going to fund this? We are going to take $17 billion from the reserve to fund this increase in spending. The rest will be funded from this current term of government. So rest assured that I believe when Minister Heng announced that more can be tapped upon in the immediate crisis should the event get worse, I believe as well. So let's get started. For companies, the measures to tide through the crisis. This is where we are going to go through in big, valid details about how the government will be supporting SME in this time of crisis. The first thing first is this, the job support scheme. I highlighted in red color the items that was increased or changed from the original Unity budget for this crisis as part of the Singapore government measurement for this crisis. So the peak top line number is a job support scheme. This is a direct cash transfer to our businesses to help defer salary costs. For all industries, you will get 25% cash on the gross monthly wages for 9 months. The difference today is no longer 3 months, it's 9 months, and the percentage went from 8% to 25%. The wage cap has also increased from 3,600 to 4,600 to support the PMETs better. Effectively, if you have a top high-end growth payer, you will get 1,150 per month and a maximum payout per employee of $10,350 in 9 months' time. It will be administered by RAS, our Inland Revenue Authority Services. There is no need to apply and is automatically calculated based on the CPF records. There are 3 periods of qualifications. Let me move to the next slide with thanks to IRAS. The first period has passed. October to December, the CPF has been paid. You already know when and how much you will get. The second tranche, which is new in this budget, is February to April 2020, and the third tranche will be May to July. Effectively, the government is giving you 9 months of salary support at 25% for the employees. The payout period has also been increased now to May, July, and October. You can expect your first check in the JSS scheme in 2 months' time. However, a lot of us are SME owners here in this chat. I want to give you guys, unfortunately, a precursor that there are certain additional sectors there are certain criteria not supported. And of course, for our food sector and aviation sector in this call, you are getting an additional 75% and 50% if you are in these 2 sectors. Additional information available on iras.gov.sg. So who unfortunately do not qualify for the JSS? Business owners who are sole proprietor, who are partners of a partnership or LLP company, and employees who are both a shareholder and a director of the company do not qualify for the job support scheme. You will not receive a payout if in your exempt private limited company, you are a director and a shareholder of the firm. As well, other sectors of the firm, such as taxi drivers and property agents, are still not covered by the JSS. They have other measures covered by the individual support packages. So that is the most important package. I believe this will cost the government about $15 billion and forms the bedrock of our government measures to help businesses save jobs. The next thing the government has announced and enhanced is the wage credit scheme. Nothing has changed from the original budget announcement. The government will now increase the support to $5,000, and for the year of 2020, which is this financial year, a 15% support. You have no need to apply, and you will automatically receive a check from IRAS. Now, the question is always how and what is the wage credit scheme? I've given you an illustrated example here. For example, in the financial year 2020, let me just draw the pen here. For example, for the financial year 2020, you have an employee who makes $3,000, and you increase the salary to $9,000. $3,000. Sorry, you increase the salary from $3,000 to now $3,900. The government will therefore pay 15% of that increase for the period of 3 months. All right, the government will now pay for the period of increase for the month itself, and you will receive the payout very soon. Has been pushed up from a September period all the way now to 30th June for financial year 2020. Whatever wage increase you have issued out for the financial year 2019 has already or should be paid to you. This will be the wage credit scheme announced by the government. Most importantly is the ability to help you co-fund the salary increase for employees. Sorry, I make a mistake, for a period of about 9 months. Third, which is what SME chats and we have seen in our SGTech group talking about, is the various lines of liquidity capital the government of Singapore has. From this chat onwards here, I've put on a few things to raise actions in case of choices and decision points. First thing first is a local bank working capital loan. The original increase was from $300,000 to $600,000. Today, the working capital loan is $1 million. The interest remains the same. I stress again, the interest remains the same. No part of this interest has declined. All right, this is not the bridging loan. This is for SME working capital. My recommendation now is this: call your bankers for a reassessment of this working capital loan. A lot of SME are already using the working capital loan. Various banks have different names for it, but they're all co-funded by the Singapore government. Ask your bank to give you additional line of credit, given that now the quantum for risk-taking has increased a significant amount to $1 million. The assessment will be about 2 weeks to 1 month. You need not draw down from the assessment criteria, but at least this will help you tide through the current crisis for at least 18 months. That is step one. This is the working capital loan the government has announced. Next is the bridging loan. So, contrary to that, this was initially applied to the tourism and aviation sector. Today, the bridging loan has been increased to $5 million with a 5% fixed interest rate. Now, bridging capital loan is a much better loan for majority of SME without ability to have asset-backed loan. The effective interest rate for a 5% loan will be significantly smaller than the working capital loan. As such, if you have no loans available right now and you need to take a loan, I strongly recommend that you take the temporary bridging loan before assessing the working capital loan. Call your bankers, talk to your bankers, take this before the working capital loan. It represents an effectively lower interest rate from you. What is also not on this slide is that banks have also the leeway to not be able to pay principal on investment for the financial year 2020. If a business is really suffering and you have the ability to take on loans, you might ask the bank now for a temporary waiver of principal in the investment. I do not recommend that. If you have the ability to pay your loans, as a principal will then only drag on your principal loan period for the loan even longer. But for those of you who need it, discuss your banker, ask them to only charge you interest for the financial year 2020. This is extraordinary time. It is time to ask the bank for additional support. Next is then the two other loans for our larger enterprises. I didn't cover this in detail, but in case of those of you who fall within this gap, for our larger enterprises, we have the enterprise trade loan. This is to finance trade and overseas working capital. The quantum has increased from $5 to $10 million. My recommendation for these two loans is that if you don't already have the working capital loan, you might need, you don't already have a working capital loan, these two loans will not be applicable to you. All right, moving on, let's go on to corporate income tax relief. Now, this has nothing to do with the financial year currently, as the year assessment 2020 represents income tax for the financial year 2019. So this is already done. What the government is now giving you today is the ability to, what the government is giving you today is the ability to defer and have a discount on the tax rebate. For all those of you who make profit in financial year 2019 and the tax payable is due for 30th November this year as part of Form C or Form CS regulations, you are going to give a 25% rebate capped at $15,000. This was originally announced in the financial year budget 2020 already, and there's nothing you need to do to qualify for this right now. However, this is new. The government of Singapore has announced that for all those companies, you'll be given an automatic tax deferment for the financial year 2018. My bad, there's a typo on this slide. For the financial year 2018, the taxes that you're still paying in installment from April to June 2020 today will be deferred. So majority of you already has paid your installment payment for your taxation due for the financial year this year. It will be deferred from July to September. You'll be not having to pay the interest for 3 months. All of us should be on gyro to IRAS. As such, you do not need to do anything to qualify for this. Automatically, the Singapore government will defer the tax payable. On top of that, for firms that really need help with income tax due to cash flow, please email IRAS as they have announced that they will be open to hearing on a case-to-case basis how to help companies defer lump sum income tax payment even more. But those will be done on a case-to-case basis. Next, rental waivers. The rental waivers has been increased for those of us who are hawkers and hawker operators in NEA and NEA licensed operator. The waiver has now been increased from 1 month to 3 months. For those of us who are using HDB sites such as shop houses and EURA property sites, our waiver has been from half a month to 2 months. Other agencies not in the above list will be given 0.5 months of rental waivers. I strongly urge that for those businesses severely affected and on government properties to speak to the respective government property agency to talk about a rental waiver or further deferment of your rental charges in this extraordinary crisis time. But let's talk about the property tax rebate. So a lot of us are paying our landlord and feel the burn, especially now. The landlord are getting additional tax rebate for financial year 2020. A lot of us are complaining that landlords are not giving us this rebate now, and it's understandable because the tax due for property tax is not due till 30th November this year. As such, they're not getting the rebate, they're just not paying more taxes. Given the government has now, for hotels, tourist sites and shops, restaurants, moved up the rebate from 15% to 100%, I strongly now urge you to message your landlord and let them know that they are not paying tax. They're not even saving on tax. They are not paying tax due this year. As such, ask them and strongly ask them to ask for a property tax waiver. This is one benefit of joining SGTech. As a trade association, we are stronger together. I strongly urge ICT companies once again to join us as members today so that for those of you and all of us who are facing increasing rent in non-residential properties from the landlords, we can come together and come out a collective measure to ask for rental waivers due to the property tax rebate. The government has given all commercial sites today a 30% property rebate. Strongly come together as a community of business owner to ask our landlords to give us those rebate and pass it down to us. There is no cost to the landlord. They are basically saving money. This saving of their money should be transferred to the individuals. Moving on, the government fees and charges. The government today has extraordinarily announced that all fees and charges from 1st April 2020 to the 31st March 2021 will now be frozen. There's nothing you need to do. People of us, for example, paying for SFA, Singapore Food Association license or NEA cleaning license, will just not receive a bill for that. I strongly recommend you guys to look at the bills and check which of them you'll be saving in your financial year budget to help yourself tide through this extraordinary crisis. The Productivity and Solution Grant will be the next measure announced by the Government of Singapore. The PSG grant is something that has given us a lot of life scope, especially for us in the ICT sector. A lot of vendors, a lot of the Productivity and Solution Grant vendors are SGTech members. So I have two things for you guys. First thing first, for the period of 1st April to 31st December this year, the PSG grant for all those vendors already on the list has been increased from 70 to 80 percentile. The issue is that this is still a reimbursement basis. You will still have to pay 100% for the solution before getting 80% back from the government at a later date after the solution is implemented. For those of you with cash flow problem, this might be more challenging. Please do talk to SGTech to see how we can support you in this challenging time. As well, the government has given increased scope for the PSG grant. Originally announced, PSG will now include consultancy services on 1st October onwards, but in this extraordinary measure, the 4 new areas for the PSG grant is online tools, Zoom, things like Zoom, things like Canva, virtual meeting tools, temperature screening solution, and queue management software. So my actionable for us is this: ICT vendors who are in this sector, including startups, if you fall within the 4 scope area, email ESG and IMDA now. Ask them to put your information on their list as a pre-qualified vendors. Talk to SGTech. We conduct the Go Digital webinar. Send us an email. Talk to us about how we can get your solution on the pre-qualification list so that we can help the other sectors of Singapore economy. And for those of you thinking of adopting PSG solution, strongly recommend you to apply only on 1st April onwards. That will be next week, Wednesday onwards. Apply and get the additional increase 10% in grant support to cover your costs. Now, the next grant, of course, will be the Enterprise Development Grant or the EDG grant. The EDG grant amount has been increased from 70% to 80%. My mistake here in this list here, there's a typo here. There is no pre-qualifying solution. The goal is to have specific projects that Enterprise Singapore funds. Enterprise Singapore has also announced that for case-by-case basis, for companies most affected by COVID-19, you can get up to 90% support for the EDG grant. This, once again, is a case-by-case basis, and I strongly recommend that if you are thinking of having an EDG project in the area of productivity, growth, and preparing for the future, call ESG, talk to your officer, and see what can be done in this time ahead. Next will be then the measures already announced in the budget 2020 to support companies. The medium to long-term efforts for the government is still the same. This $8.3 billion has already been committed in a past budget, and the goal has always been to help SME grow. Nothing new in this part here was announced in yesterday's resilient budget. This was all announced in a unity budget. I just thought to put it together to help our SME to think about further source of funding possible in this section. First thing first, I know none of us want to talk about this now, but there will be an extension of the double tax deduction internationalization credit. For every $1 spent on qualified internationalization effort, IRAS will give you $2 back in qualified expenses. Things without approval, meaning you can directly submit in your Form C, includes overseas business trips, trade fairs, and investment trip. SGTech is one of us who actually actively organize trade fairs post-COVID. I ask that you have the ability to talk to us about this once the crisis is over. I want to put this as an emphasis, as majority of SMEs I have noticed forget to talk about or forget to apply for the double tax deduction for internationalization. This is a good benefit to help us during internationalization effort, and a work example is below. The enhanced DTDI will now be extended to 31st December 2025. I know we are not traveling, or all of us should be staying at home and not traveling now. But when we do resume back, the increased area now includes speaking slots at trade show, which might be very relevant for our ICT partners in this call, as you guys might want to take part in trade shows and pay for speaking slots to be able to promote your product. You'll get double tax deduction for the internationalization. You don't get money from the government, you just pay a lesser tax. Another thing is the accelerator write-off. Investment might be tough now, but if you're thinking of doing investment, IRAS will give you an elected special 2 years write-off your asset. This will further help you offset your tax bill for the financial year 2020 and 2021. Next will be the new Market Readiness Access Grant. The Government of Singapore has now enhanced the MRA grant. Of course, the qualification criteria is the same. Nothing has changed in the local shareholding percentage. But the step towards this is this. Eligible cost is now up to 70%, but companies per new market will get $100,000 to give you guys support for investing into new markets. As such, you have an effective MRA grant about $141,000 per individual market that you might want to access to. The eligible activity now includes entry, business matching, and overseas market promotion, such as consultancy work. The next thing the government has announced will be the Enterprise Leadership for Transformation Program, or the ELT for short. The ELT program, as some of you might know, is a special program announced and jointly done by the IHL, the Institute of Higher Learning with Enterprise Singapore, is for our fast-growing businesses who are ready for the next stage of growth. The goal will be for 900 companies to provide training, coaching, and network support to help them grow together and get ready for growth. More information will be announced in April. Of course, a lot of companies today are looking forward to the SFEC. That's a Skills Future Enterprise Credit. Each of you already know that you guys are getting a top up of 500 Singapore dollars or 1,000 Singapore dollars on your individual Skills Future credit account. But today for companies, another further $10,000 will be given to eligible companies based on the previous submission of job support, basically the CPF submission that you have given. You are basically given double support for eligible programs using the SFEC. Let me give you a work example. Here are the few areas that is already qualified by Skills Future Singapore. Just now I talked to you guys about the Enterprise Leadership Program. If you take part in it, you can use your SFEC for that. MRA will also be covered by SFEC. Productivity Solution Grant will also be covered. And for our tourism people tuning in, I want to put a strong emphasis that the Business Improvement Fund by the Singapore Tourism Board will also be covered by the SFEC. When will the SFEC be out? Somewhere in October. So this is how a work example will go. For example, for companies interested in taking an MRA project worth $100,000, the initial MRA subsidies will be $70,000, assuming you get the top line 70%. As such, you can claim up to 90% of $30,000. Unfortunately, the government has put a cap. So even though you can claim this, even though you can claim 30% of the remaining amount, you can claim 90% of the remaining amount of 30K. Because there's a cap, you get an additional $7,000. More information on the cap is available on the Skills Future website. But essentially, for majority of us who are doing smaller scale project, let me clear this off. For majority of SMEs and staff who are doing smaller scale project, the MRA support is going to be, the SFEC support will be very relevant for this. A lot of you, Productivity Solution Grant will probably cost you $10,000. The government will pay 80% of it in this extraordinary financial year, leaving you with our home pocket of $2,000. And from the $2,000 remaining, you can claim a further 90% of that $2,000. Effectively, you are paying $200 for a $10,000 solution. I strongly recommend that our ICT vendors in the Productivity Solution Scheme or in the MRA support scheme to look at this strongly and give it as an option to help SME in providing solution at an affordable rate in today's economic climate. Moving on, I want to give you guys a short talk. We have a few more points left in this slide about the professional conversion program. Now, Workforce Singapore has a bunch of programs to help companies hire people in this extraordinary program. One of them was a traineeship program. Unfortunately, we're not talking about that now due to the fact that I do not have enough information about it. But one of it I would like to talk about is the PCP program by SGTech. The professional conversion program is to help companies hire PMETs who has been displaced from the existing job due to the changing economy for a new job in your role. The PCP program, there are many of them, are all administered by the respective trade association. One of them administered by SGTech that I feel very strongly for is a digital sales program. So this is how it works. Join us in this PCP program, find an employee who wants to join this PCP program, and you will get 6 months of salary support for up to 90%. Oops, sorry guys. Oops, sorry guys. Give me a while. Okay, you will get up to 90% of salary support or 70% depending on how old your employee is. That means that for 6 months, if you hire a new guy into your business at this point in time, you will get 90% back on Workforce Singapore. Don't forget that on top of that, in this extraordinary time, the job support scheme, the JSS, the first item I announced, will also be applicable. Effectively, you might be actually getting back certain amount for a few selected months. Basically, the government is paying you to hire workers for a very specific period of time because of 90% plus the additional 9 months coverage of the workers. The workers, of course, because of the conversion program, will also have to go through some form of course training. You will, like normal, get 70% of course support or 90% depending on certain circumstances. So let's walk through an example for the SGTech program. In the SGTech program, you will need to pay $3,000 and another $600 for the training. That gives you out of pocket about $4,000. For $4,000 of training fees that you pay, not to SGTech, but to our partners in this professional conversion program, you will get 6 months of salary support at 90%. For those of you who are keen and want to use this time to take advantage of this situation to get yourself ready for digital sales, talk to us, email us. I will send out the PCP digital sales information sheet after this webinar. Contact SGTech if you are keen. Our next intake will start in April 2020. It's starting really soon. You still have a certain amount of time now to qualify for this professional conversion program. As I told you just now, in the isolation economy, if you can find a way to survive in the next 18 months, the goal now will be either adapt or take advantage. I believe that digital sales will be the next wave of the future. I strongly recommend you guys to look at this and talk to us about how we can support you. Finally, my last point today for companies is the SGTech and IMDA community help. We have come together as part of SG United and Go Digital Stay Healthy to ask our ICT vendors to come together to put in things that can give our other members. This is a collection of free and subsidized solution in a few areas: visitor management, remote working, selling things online, bill and payment online, productivity improvement. The action you need to do now is call the ICT vendor. The list of companies will be circulated. This is a QR code if you want to find. I can give you a few examples. Companies like Swee are giving free solutions for a period of time right now. They are productivity grant. Other companies like our member company like Cisco is giving WebEx for use for free as well. These are different solutions that our member company from big all the way to small enterprise are helping the rest of the industry cope in this difficult time. Moving on, once again, thank you very much. We're going to ask and answer the question now. My name, once again, is Ivan. I'm Co-Operator Councillor for SGTech. Thank you so much for sitting through 45 minutes of me sharing. You can contact me if you have other inquiries. But once again, SGTech, we as a premier association for all the ICT sector today, we want to be able to help all our member companies as best as we can. I strongly ask you guys to give us a chance, join us and talk to us. The webinar survey will be sent out once you close this. I have a lot of Q&A. Let me answer them one by one. All right. Question 1, Hi, can we get the slide for the presentation? Yes, the slide for the presentation will be available once the slides of this presentation will be available after the presentation is over via email. What about healthcare industry? Should there be an increase? Unfortunately, I will not. Okay, next question is, what about healthcare industry? I will not be able to answer that as that's beyond my abilities and my scope. Will we get any rebate for companies using shared offices such as JustCo and WeWork? I believe that WeWork as a commercial tenant, companies like WeWork as a commercial tenant of say a Capital Land or Escort Group will get a property rebate. I strongly ask you guys to come together in different ICT sector to talk about it. Side note to our SGTech colleagues, I understand that majority of our ICT members are using co-working space. Let us come out with a formula together to ask all the various co-working space to find a solution for that. Next question. Are sole directors who are shareholders going to receive any help? Unfortunately, no, you're not going to receive any help. The JSS scheme is very clear. There is no petitioning. There is no form of rebate. So if you're the director and shareholder of the company at the same time, you are not going to get a job support scheme rebate to your salary from IRAS. Sorry about that. Next one, done, sorry. Is personal guarantee needed for next question, is personal guarantee needed for temporary bridging loan or working capital loan? Based on very quick reading of the government budget and all the different banks' policy, of course, it's likely the case that you need personal guarantee. Director's guarantee is always there. Next question, for landlord property tax rebate, does it apply to us who use co-working space? Same thing. I think this is a big thing. SGTech colleagues on this call, please make sure that we can be able to do something for the co-working space together. What about vendors who are not on the list, but eventually added on a PSG list? The 80% will apply, likely to apply because the government is doing a blanket cover for this year. For PCP, can we existing and existing role? Okay, for the PCP, can we enroll an existing employee but need to move to another job? Yes, you can. Talk to us and we will figure it out with you. You can move an existing employee to another job. My colleagues will send an email on this to help you guys afterwards. Our locals founder cover other JSS, WCS, SRIS, and PCP. Local founders will be hard to be covered under JSS and PCP as you are the sole director and or director and also shareholder of the company. The SIRS, which is the one for freelance employee, unfortunately not going to be applicable for you when the details are announced. Should there be more reliant on technology for businesses? I of course hope so. I think our ICT vendors are here to support you guys. Talk to us, let us support you guys in this situation. Is the JSS subsidies applicable to our interns? Based on IRAS guideline, probably there is applicable because it's just based on employee and they didn't put a ceiling cap on the thing. So I believe the JSS will be applicable to interns. IRAS do not see things as interns or these are industry terms. IRAS see it as employees with CPF payroll. Number two, I heard there's an SG United traineeship subsidy for fully fresh hire grad. Yes, the traineeship thing is announced. Unfortunately, MOM have no details for this yet. I will not be able to comment on it. Please check MOM website and probably we can talk about it later. Will those on no pay leave qualify for the JSS? If you have no pay, there is no CPF. Once again, go back to the qualification period. Look at the qualification period. If you don't pay CPF for the period of time, I do not think you will likely qualify for the JSS because it's a very simple number. But I understand for the aviation sector, since you get 75%, it might be a special scenario. Please talk to IRAS, will not be able to answer that for you. Keen to understand the effects on the events industry. I believe COVID-19 has affected us a lot. Starting another program here, Singapore SMU Academy, we'll be launching a bunch of new programs, Skills Future approved programs in the event sector. Do check out for it. I will send out a circulation email on that soon enough. Is it a monthly payout? I think this will be the JSS. The JSS will not be a money payout. It will be a 3 tranche payout. So they will use 3 months of your CPF and then pay you out at one lump sum. 3 months, one lump sum, and 3 months, one lump sum. You will get 3 tranches of the JSS payments. Hey, hi Wei Lun. Wei Lun asking me a question. When will the crediting happen for each tranche of the JSS? Available in my earlier slide. Please check and you'll be available there. How can SMEs adopt working from home remote working? I believe Enterprise Singapore has a very good remote working guide as well. SGTech, talk to SGTech, we can talk about how different solutions can help you in this period of time to work from home. If salary increase was made in March, is the payout of the wage scheme still applicable? Yes, it is still applicable. Please check through my example slides and IRS example. So you need to use 3 months for financial year 2019 and 3 months for financial year 2020 to qualify as a wage increase. There is a formula. Follow the formula in Excel sheet and you'll be able to see whether it qualifies for you. How long is the assessment for the bridging? I'm not a banker. I really wish I can answer you, but I believe the banks are working overtime right now to be able to help as many SMEs survive as possible. PSG grant, is it apply for the grant before? No. Okay, first thing first, clarification. The grant is 80%, not 90%. No, it's quite specific. If you apply for the grant before 1st April, maybe I know, and if you have not get approval yet, maybe it's a good time. I know it's very silly to cancel the original grant that you applied for and then reapply on Tuesday. I know it's really very silly, but unfortunately, this is what I'm receiving and reading on the SME Go Digital website. Perhaps our SGTech members listening in, can we, SGTech Secretariat, can we ask IMDA and Howie to see on this? Thanks. Will there be a recording on this? Will there be recording on this slide? Yes, it will be made recordable in a short while. SMEs trying to adapt and looking to make use of technology to survive in this crisis and hence expenses on broadband expenses. Broadband expenses are actually might be covered in specific ICT packages. For example, the SME Go Digital Kickstart package by the respective telco like M1, Singtel, and IMDA. I will circulate that later. You will get a bit of subsidies in the broadband and they will bundle in other services such as MailChimp and a different vendor solution. SME trying to adapt and looking to make use of this will be broadband. Sorry, this is answered. How long will the listing of the pre-qualified list take for the new sectors? We're going to ask IMDA to do this as fast as possible. I do not have an answer. I believe they're trying to do this as fast as possible. Let's talk about bank loans. We asked DBS, who's only offering us 50K. Once again, the government subsidies quantum doesn't mean you get the full quantum. Individual companies still have to be subjected to the same credit checks as any other banks will. And the quantum basically just means that the government will take on more risk if they lend you money. But the banks still have the sole discretion to decide your maximum quantum. I cannot answer this. Next question is the food manufacturing versus food services. I really wish I'm able to answer. I will not be able to answer this because I'm not clear of the sector. We are the startup at the JTC Launchpad. Can we get rebate? Let's join SGTech. We have a startup chapter. Chun Leong leads that. Let's talk to JTC together as a collective, stronger together to see how we can ask JTC to give us a special time. Secretariat, please take note. Let's see what you can do on this area. Do we have redeployment PCP? I believe it might be announced soon. Send us an email, join us as SGTech member. I know I sound like a broken record, but I cannot talk about this right now, but this might be coming soon. Redeployment PCP is something that a lot of us have been asking for, and we are actively working on something. A redeployment PCP, for those of you, will be working this way. It basically takes an existing job that you have and redeploy to another job. Let us try to work together. Join us. Rental waivers apply for all tenants or just to government buildings. Rental waivers are not a government process. Yeah, rental waivers are meant for the landlords. My bad. Rental waivers are meant for government buildings. The government agency decided to give us a rental waiver. Rental property tax rebate is then for commercial properties, meaning your landlord is not the government of Singapore, and that's why they're going to give you that rebate, and hopefully they pass down to the individual companies. Does the JSS cover bonus? No, the JSS doesn't cover bonus. In your CPF records, if you're using good software like Telenox and Payboy, both are member ICT companies, you'll realize that when you submit your CPF record, there's a separation between basic income and wages and additional allowance like transportation. The JSS only cover basic wage. It's very clear and explicit in the example. TPL is for short-term loan anyway. Can it be rolled to extend the WCR period? The bridging loan and the working capital, very hard to say. Once again, check with the banks. The current loan period requires SME owner to pledge working capital. How is it different from normal time? It is no different from current time. It's just that the quantum has increased so much. I know it seems reductive, but if the quantum has increased 3 times and the risk share by the government has increased from 50 to 80%, the banks should be more willing to extend capital to the market, as even if you default, the banks has a government to go back onto as well. So hopefully this translates out to everybody else. For JSS shareholder, I'm a shareholder and employee of my company. Yes, you are excluded from JSS. Video conferencing, e-solution provider for training management. We are keen to next PSG. Hi, Jimmy. Please talk to SGTech. Send us an email to talk about this and we will help you with this. Can the specific be exemption for small startup? Sorry, I will not be able to answer that, but majority of us don't pay taxation as a small startup, so you already will qualify for the 3 years extension. Managing cybercrime, cybersecurity to collaborate. Paru, please talk to our cybersecurity sector. ICT, we have a cybersecurity chapter to follow our review on this. Secretariat, please take note of this. We want to be able to follow up on this. Who can we speak to registering as a vendor for the PSG grant? Of course, SGTech, talk to us. Support for training and consultancy industry based on current budget? I do not think so yet. Hi Zen, who is one of our members. Can existing employees who have been with the company for more than 1 year still be eligible? Talk to Zihan from our talent committee. We will work out with you on this. There are a lot of very clear, specific. We'll talk to you about this. Yes, there'll be replay. I will try to end this in about 10 minutes. Let's just answer the last few questions. It seems that private education sector has been left out but badly affected. We don't have for 5 clients. Oh yes, please talk to us about that as a vendor. Will new employees be covered under grant? Yes, because the qualification period for the JSS scheme is not based on just October, November 2019. It's based on 2020. So your new employees will be covered under the JSS grant. Employees who left in end 2019, will they qualify for JSS? Yes, because it's completely based on payroll in 2019. They will qualify for JSS. JSS is based on CPF. Interns not paid on CPF. Technically speaking, or not, I would have to say that interns should be paid CPF unless you treat them as contract workers. So unfortunately, you will not get any subsidies for this area. Self-employed given 1K, I cannot answer this because this is part of a different scheme. But if you are a business owner, it probably doesn't apply to you. Can SGTech members get a personal consultation on how to take advantage of the members? Andrew, we will try our best. Drop us an email. We will see what we can do with our secretariat. For 2 members, for 2 startups of small cap with very little members, if we're not eligible at JSS, does this mean we don't get a bridging loan? No, but because a lot of startups do not even have financial to show that you can get a bridging loan, most often you will get the start loan. The start loan is by all the respective banks and it's up to $50,000 or $40,000. I can't remember the specific, but that will be the best loan that you can get right now. It doesn't require you to get any pre-approval and submit financial to the bank. So you will not likely be qualifiable for the temporary bridging loan or the working capital loan. Can you assist to define government fees and charges? I wish I knew. Government of Singapore has not published what is the fees and charges. I would think that it includes simple things like your SFA license or renewal license. Must employees or employees apply anything to get the JSS? The JSS is for employers only, not for employees. You do not need to do anything. It's directly based on CPF records. What are the top 3 measures, in my opinion, that will benefit startup? I think a lot of us are selling. First thing first, apply for PSG to put our list on the PSG to get companies to use them. That's number 1. Number 2, the JSS will definitely help any of the startup who do not have just founders, employees. And number 3 itself, I would think that the MRA, when the economic cycle resumes back, will be very important for us to take advantage of it to go up again. Are conservation shophouse entitled to 100% property rebate? It's all based on URA guidance for your own conservation shophouse. Before you talk to your landlord, very simple, go to URA site, look at the classification of your property that you're in, and you know whether you are the one that get 100% property rebate or 30% commercial property rebate. Before you talk to your landlord, it's all a negotiation. Are companies holding events considered to be event sector? No, it's based on SICC code, Bob. Are GSS qualified for AW? No, it does not. It's only for ordinary wages only. What's the purpose of bridging loan compared to working capital loan? Working capital loan will be here for a very long time. A lot of us finance our growth in our trade and our working capital through the working capital loan. The bridging loan was originally meant for the most affected sector, which is tourism and aviation. The government of Singapore has extended that for a massive amount, the government of Singapore has extended the temporary bridging loan for a special, for all sectors now. It's a special period of time. This is exactly what they did for the SARS time to give us additional loan. I would say that the bridging capital loan probably have a shorter tenure than the working capital loan, and you should apply for that first if you qualify for it. Yes, Adrian. Hi, Adrian. Yeah, chairman of our SGTech Go Digital Committee. Next vendor briefing, 3rd April. Please sign up for it. We will send out a detail for that. Is bridging loan applicable for IT start without assets and revenue? Unlikely, Yaming. Probably you will need to go for the start loan. It doesn't apply for, because you need to show some form of financials. From Lydia, hi Lydia. Salary support for PCP, is it reimbursement after some time or outright funds given per month? I actually do not know that. I will check for you and get back to you on this. IMDA PSG solution reviews seem to take a lot of time for approval. Could SGTech ask, could we ask IMDA to assess? That's why you should join as member company. Please talk to Adrian, please talk to our secretariat, join as member company and let us come together. I'm so happy to see all our members coming together to help go through this time together. Our non-profit association cover under JSS. I cannot remember the qualification list, Adriel. Please check the Government of Singapore website. There are certain companies not qualified, such as government-linked companies, like I would say Crimson Logic, but I do not know the specificity of it. Please check the IRAS website. Will GOV break out projects to smaller scope? I do not know. We do have a tender committee. SGTech do have a tender committee. Okay, sorry. Chun asked a question about whether we can come together to bid for government projects and help together and break down. Shirley, our former chair, has come together to form the tender committee to talk about the government processes. There's a special committee that we are formed. See, we're doing so many things for our members. I strongly ask you to email us and we'll redirect you to the correct person. Diana, how many SME are clueless about technology grant? Does SGTech plans to reach out? Diana, talk to us. I do not think we have the chance to reach out to them. The ASME, as in the SME centers, are the ones supposed to reach out to them. We will try our best to see what we can do together. Yes, thanks, Jacqueline. I keep saying talk to SGTech. SGTech email is info@sgtech.org.sg. Please do not email to ivanchang@me.com because I will get flooded with emails. All right, please email to SGTech directly. Thanks. Post-webinar industry link is broken. I am so sorry. I think we have some issues. In case it's not working, I'll send an email for that. Are there any fees to join SGTech? Yes, there's a fee to join SGTech. Our membership fee for small companies is $500 a year. I know it sounds hefty in this current period of time, but I ask that you join us so that we are able to effectively lobby together and come together as a thing. Talk to us and we'll give you guys, we can talk about how we can support members now. May I ask you to help you review a site in order due to stack the grant to maximize subsidies? I try not to do that, to stack grants. I think companies must assess grant on an individual basis. I do not think you should be thinking of stacking grant, but yes, I'll be happy to review the slides. Eileen asked about the Enterprise Leadership Transformation Program. I really wish I can share more. More information will be shared by Enterprise Singapore in due course. How to cope with fundraising in the midst of COVID-19 for for startups? I really wish I have an answer for you. Unfortunately, I do not have an answer for you. This is an extraordinary time for us, and yeah, I believe that the sector will be affected. All right, let me go through. Can Wilson or my colleague please paste the link for the webinar here? I believe, yeah. Thanks. All right, guys, we have reached the time. 2 more minutes in case anyone has any other question. It's my pleasure once again to share with you all of this. I know I'm speaking very, very fast. I hope you guys were able to catch it. If not, there will be a recording. The recording based on my own voice will be definitely shorter. One more question. ATID, I think it's DTID, right? I'm not sure what is ATID, so I cannot answer. Once again, on behalf of SGTech, thank you so much for talking to us and giving us this. I hope you guys enjoy it. Any questions, please, once again, talk to me and we can talk about it. CT Go, thank you so much. It's my pleasure to answer this to you guys. It's really, really my pleasure. Answer live. Thank you, Yaming. It's really my pleasure. Sorry, ATID, I'll check for you later. AITD, not actually sure what it is. Drop me an email, I'll check for you later. Pleasure once again, everyone. On behalf of SGTech, thank you for joining us this webinar. We're so fortunate at the peak, we had 278 of you joining in. It's so much pleasure. On behalf of myself, SGTech, and my big giant unicorn here, Theodore, thank you so much, guys. I'll just keep this live so in case any of you have any questions for us. Thank you so much, Liana. Appreciate it.